Story 1. The ranger station that should have been empty. Ethan was a volunteer search and rescue ranger in northern Montana, near the edge of Glacier National Park. The area was so remote that most visitors didn't even know the old fire lookout station still existed. It hadn't been used full-time for years. It sat on a ridge above a dense tree line, reachable only by a rough trail that took nearly 2 hours to hike. One cold October evening, Ethan was assigned to check the lookout after a report of a possible campfire spotted from the valley. The station wasn't supposed to have anyone inside. It didn't even have power anymore. As he hiked up, the wind cut through the trees like a whistle, and the last bit of sunlight faded behind the mountains. By the time he reached the ridge, the temperature dropped sharply, and that's when he noticed something he didn't expect. The lookout window was glowing. A warm orange light flickered from inside. Ethan radioed in, but the signal barely reached the valley. All he caught was static and a few broken words. He pushed forward anyway. He stepped up onto the old wooden deck, walked to the door, and froze. Someone had carved a message into the wood. "Don't stay after dark." It looked fresh. He slowly opened the door. The room inside was ice cold, but the lantern on the table burned brightly. A metal chair sat in the center like someone had just been there. A sleeping bag in the corner was rolled out, but empty. And on the wall, directly above the lantern, were dozens of long scratch marks. They were deep, far deeper than an animal could make. Ethan heard a sound behind him. Footsteps on the deck. He turned quickly and shined his flashlight through the window. Nobody, just wind and darkness. The footsteps continued, circling the station. He stepped back and grabbed the radio again, finally catching a clear signal. "Don't approach. Leave immediately. Not safe." The footsteps stopped right outside the door. Ethan backed away from it. The door handle turned, slowly. Something pushed the door inward just an inch, but not enough for him to see what was outside. Then a voice whispered through the crack. It sounded like his own voice. "Ethan, help me." His blood froze. He ran, out the back window, down the ridge, nearly tripping the entire way. He didn't stop until he saw the rescue truck headlights at the trail entrance. The ranger supervisor told him calmly, "Nobody has used that lookout since 2014, and nobody should answer voices up there." When they went back the next morning, the lantern was gone, and the message on the door had changed. "You should have stayed." Story 2. The Vanishing Campers of Blackwater Canyon. Blackwater Canyon in West Virginia is one of the most beautiful and quietest places in the entire region. Deep woods, steep cliffs, and long stretches where no cell service exists. Every year, experienced campers enter the canyon and come out days later with incredible stories. But in 2016, a pair of cousins named Ryan and Cody went on a weekend camping trip and returned with a story they never talk about publicly. The first night was peaceful. They built a fire, cooked some burgers, and listened to the river rushing through the canyon. Around midnight, they heard what sounded like a loud splash. Something fell or jumped into the water. They checked the riverbank and saw nothing, just ripples moving across the surface. The second night, things changed. Around 3 a.m., Ryan woke to the sound of Cody whispering urgently, "Someone's outside the tent." Ryan listened carefully. There was breathing, slow, heavy breathing, too slow to be human, too heavy to be an animal they recognized. The silhouette of a figure moved across the outside of the tent wall. It looked tall, very tall, and its limbs seemed too long, almost dragging. Cody mouthed silently, "Don't move." The figure stopped. Then it bent down, its shadow folding unnaturally, and pressed its face against the fabric. Ryan could clearly see the shape of an eye, but it wasn't round. It was narrow and slanted, like a vertical slit, and it blinked sideways. Cody almost passed out. The thing sniffed the tent, sniffed loudly, and then walked away toward the river. They stayed frozen until sunrise. When they stepped outside, they saw footprints around the tent, but the prints were twisted, almost humanoid, but with 3 long toes. They packed up immediately. On their way out of the canyon, they met a local ranger who stopped them and asked if they saw anything strange. When Ryan described the creature, the ranger stiffened. He quietly said, "If something follows you, don't acknowledge it. Just keep walking." The cousins didn't understand until later, when they reached their truck and noticed something chilling. All around the vehicle were the same 3-toed footprints, leading right up to the driver's door, and the driver's side mirror was bent inward, like something tall had leaned down to look inside. Ryan and Cody never went camping again.
Story 3. The Last Motel on Highway 72. Emily was driving through rural Alabama, heading home from college on a late-night trip. She preferred driving at night, less traffic, cooler air. But a sudden storm rolled in and lightning cracked across the sky. Her GPS lost connection and thick fog began swallowing the entire road. She eventually saw a flickering neon sign, Pine Hollow Motel, vacancy. The place looked abandoned. Only one cabin door had a light glowing from inside. Emily had no choice. She pulled in and walked to the front office. Inside, an old bell sat on the counter. After she pressed it, a man appeared from the back room. He looked tired, pale, almost drained. "You traveling alone?" he asked. Emily hesitated but nodded. The man handed her a key with the number 7 on it and said, "Don't open the curtains, not until sunrise." His tone wasn't threatening, it was fearful. She went to cabin 7. Everything inside looked old but clean. A small lamp flickered on the bedside table. She lay down to rest, but 30 minutes later, she heard tapping. Tap, tap, tap. It came from the window. She remembered the man's warning. She ignored it. Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice whispered, "Ma'am, you left your lights on." Emily froze. It sounded like a police officer, firm but calm. "Please, open the curtains." Something felt wrong. She checked the parking lot through the peephole. There was no police car. There was no one outside. The voice came again, harsher. "Open the curtains." The doorknob shook violently. Emily dialed 911 but had no signal. The tapping grew louder, faster, like fingernails scraping the glass. Then the voice changed. It became deeper, distorted. "Let me in! I'm cold!" She stumbled back as the lamp flickered. The tapping stopped. Silence fell. A long, heavy silence. When the sun finally rose, Emily grabbed her bags and ran toward the office. But the building looked older. Much older. Like it hadn't been used in decades. The windows were dusty. The door was locked with chains. There was no sign of the man who gave her the key. No sign of lights from any cabin. Her car was the only vehicle on the entire lot. When she checked online months later, she discovered Pine Hollow Motel had been closed since 1998 after several incidents. Travelers reported hearing voices outside their cabins during storms, voices that sounded human but weren't. Emily never drives Highway 72 at night anymore.